here live in effect. So I'm here because I want to talk about a very important and serious subject that we often don't even bring up in our community. All right. So I want to get into this subject because of the Kevin Gates interview and also the young lady who was a victim of R.Kelly on his sex tape at 14 years old. She went by the name Jane Doe, but we learned that her name is Reshona Landfair. All right. So let's talk about the young lady Reshona Landfair. At 14, she was on R. Kelly's sex tape. Now, he had a tape that came out in 2001. Okay. And that tape was sold to the streets. So if you guys don't know the background of the story, R. Kelly allegedly urinated on this young lady. She was underage. So she wanted to tell her story and get into doing the interview, which I'm glad that she was able to do so. She is the niece of singer Sparkle. Sparkle was the one that did the song with R. Kelly called Be Careful. You better be careful what you say to me. Yeah. Yeah, she did that song. And that was a hit back in the day, 1998. That was a hit. But come to find out that yeah, that's her niece. And then what's really sad is that her father, who was playing the guitar for R. Kelly on tours and whatnot, he was pretty much behind this whole thing. Okay? Because he worked for R. Kelly. Now I'm going to tie this into the Kevin Gates interview. This little girl, she suffered from 14 all the way on up to the age that she is now. So she got to be about 37, somewhere like that, or 39. This girl had to live with the fact that she was a Jane Doe on somebody's sex tape. And you have a grown man here it is, a grown man urinating on a child. And people are selling this shit into the streets. And it's bothering me because people literally defend this guy. It's like the whole time people knew that he was a child molester. They knew that he was a child molester and they still backed this man up. The people that was around him. That's the part that really gets me, because it's like, y'all knew this man. These are adults that knew what he was doing. It's not like R. Kelly was incoherent. R. Kelly knew exactly what he was doing. You know, it used to confuse me about him because he'll make music 1 minute talking about love and relationship. Next minute, he'll talk about being a thug and being a gangster and a pimp. Then the next minute, he talks about God, Jesus Christ and how he loved the Lord and all of that. So I'm just like, well, where is this man going? Who is he trying to be? What is he trying to be? Is he confused? Is he lost? What? I remember coming up as a kid, I would hear so many stories about R.Kelly, right? And I didn't think it was true because at that time I was into R.Kelly music. He made great music. I didn't think it was true. I'm like, I don't think this man. I'm like, this man did what? Nah, nah. Cause I remember I was in the cafeteria eating my lunch and I was with some kids. We was talking about him. And one girl said, R. Kelly is a child molester. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, he likes little girls. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then that whole thing about Aaliyah was 14 years old, y'all, when he married her. Now, I didn't even know they had a thing going on. I'm just thinking that he was producing her music, writing her music, and being like a mentor to her. And that's it. I didn't even think they had any type of relationship. And I'm just like, what? All this stuff about him waiting on kids outside the school and things of that nature. It's just strange. It's weird. But no, but when this story came about this little girl and the mistake, I'm thinking, okay, this is insane. Like, that's not true. That can't be true. But it is the truth. He really did that. He really did that stuff. Somebody got to take the blame. Somebody got to take the blame for allowing this man, grown man, to be in the presence of a teenage girl. And the blame goes to the parent, especially her father. And she was not the only one. There was multiple girls her age that was being violated by him. There were stories about parents selling their daughters off to him just so they can get paid or they can live a certain type of lifestyle. Just recently, back in 2017, the girl Jocelyn Savage, she was one of his victims. Although she denied, but she was one of his victims. Telling girls they couldn't go to the bathroom, they gotta get permission from him to go to the other room and all this crazy stuff. But I'm glad that this young lady, who is now a grown woman, is able to come out and tell her story and talk about the things that she had experienced as a child, because that is very traumatizing. And for people to make jokes about what he did to her is even more sick. Here it is, a bunch of grown ass motherfuckers cracking jokes about a grown man pissing on a child. Ain't nothing funny about a man pissing on no goddamn teenage girl. Ain't nothing funny about that shit. That shit ain't cool. Now that's an embarrassment that she gotta deal with. But some of these same adults that defend R. Kelly, don't be surprised when they defend their loved ones that's doing the same thing that he was doing. Don't be surprised to find out that these people would defend Uncle Joe, Uncle Billy, Auntie, whoever. They'll defend those individuals. Hell, they'll defend the pastor in the church, even though they know that he did something. And although the rumors are true, people will still defend that pastor and say, oh, he's the man of God. This little girl went without protection. She was not protected by the people that so-called loved her. Her family failed her. The community failed her. And people become very broken. It's not easy to talk about being traumatized and being molested as a kid. I've been through child molestation. So I know that feeling. I know what it's like to not be able to have a voice to say something. I know how hard it is. It's very traumatizing, especially when you're young and you don't even know that you're being violated. Nobody ever sat down and talked to you and say, hey, if somebody touch you inappropriately or do something that they're not supposed to do, you tell a grown up or you go get help. I know what that feels like. And you know what's very common in our household? We hear this all the time. What happens in the house stays in the house. You don't tell any of our business. And that itself is very detrimental. It's detrimental because that affects the psychology of the child. Because guess what? That child is going to bring whatever goes on in that house outside to the community. They're going to take all that anger and bring it on the outside. Somebody put because they sold her and did a contract with R.Kelly. That's why at the meeting he said, y'all don't know what they're doing to me. I mean, it's really sad that people will prostitute their own children for fame, for fortune. People will really sell their kids over to somebody that's famous just so they can live a lavish life. Like you pimping your own kids. You pimping your own kids, bro. It really it bothers me. But going back to what I was saying about the household situation, growing up in a black household, and I hate to say that, but as much as I love my community, we were taught to keep things to ourselves. But when you keep stuff that is traumatizing, that would cause PTSD, right? You're going to bring that outside. You're not going to keep it to yourself. I mean, you're not going to speak on the situation, but your action is going to show. And other people around you is going to be affected. One thing Umar Johnson said the best, and I don't really like him like that, but he said something that was really, really valuable. He said, whatever happens in a household with a child does have an effect on the community. Whatever happens to a person, if they were traumatized, it will have an effect on the entire community. And people don't understand that trauma will be carried down from generation to generation to generation. And again to Kevin Gates interview, what he did with Shannon Sharp, Club Shay Shay. So I don't too much watch Shannon Sharp interviews, but I happen to see Kevin Gates on there because he's one of the main artists that I listen to on my playlist. So Kevin brought up a story about his childhood. He was talking about how he was molested as a little boy by a grown man. I think he was a teenager at that time when he was molested. And he couldn't talk about it. He couldn't tell anybody that, hey, I was sexually violated. I was taken advantage of. He couldn't say anything about that. Because, with boys, they go through stuff like that, but they don't talk about it. They're not open with that type of stuff. because they're taught to fight back, toughen up. And that's what happened with his case. He said that it messed with him so much to the point that he started to become more aggressive. He started to become angry. He started to lash out. And it wasn't because he wanted to be rebellious, it was out of fear. It was out of fear. Bruh. And then Shannon Sharp asked him, he said, well, what happened to the guy that did that to you? He said, he's no longer here. He's no longer here. He was like, what you mean he's no longer here? He was like, he's gone. And Shannon Sharp said, well, that's not up to you to do that. That's up to the Lord to take care of that. He said, God ain't put me here to be a pussy. So what Kevin Gates said was, if a person mess with a child, he said, if anybody mess with my kids, my daughter, they got to go. They have to die. They need to be hanged by the legs. And he's right. He's right. These child molesters, they need to be severely punished. They need to be punished. I agree. I believe that there should be a death penalty for people who are pedophiles, who are rapists. There needs to be a death penalty. Why? Because they'll go back into the world and they'll repeat the process again. But then you have people that are so religious saying that, oh, we got to just let it be in God's hand and protect these people and pray that the Lord will be with them. No, some people you cannot protect. Some people got to go. But it's looked down upon. It looks like, oh, you're sinning. You're trying to be like God. No, you're trying to protect your family. It ain't about trying to be like God. You're trying to protect your family. You're trying to protect your environment, your loved ones. That's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to be a deity or anything like that. And if it's wrong to protect your family, then why are you here? What is your purpose of existing on earth? Then you want to know why people turn away from religion. They get away from the religious community. This is one of the reasons why. Because they make so much excuses. Because the very same people say you gotta pray to the Lord and let the Lord deal with that. It's the same ones that gonna defend their pastors, ministers, deacons, the choir director, when they find out they are out here doing the same heinous crimes to children. Especially inside of a place that's supposed to be where you worship the Lord. So Kevin Gates said it took him a long time to talk about that. He was hurting. He was traumatized. He did a song called Protect Children, which is one of my favorite songs. He said after he recorded that song, he broke down and cried for weeks. That was that little boy in him that never got a chance to heal. And the only way that he was able to find his healing was through music, was through practicing Islam, was through meditation. That was his only way. So we all grew up in a household, because I'm a millennial, okay? So both of these people, they're millennials, right? We grew up in a household where We had to suffer with trauma. We had to deal with that. We had to walk through trauma. It was no such thing as being depressed. You didn't get to be depressed. You didn't get to be sad. You didn't get to go to your parents and tell them, I'm going through something. No, you didn't get to do that. You had to deal with it. You had to deal with that. You had to just be strong. Just be strong. You just had to deal with it. You didn't get therapy. Therapy was not a common thing in our community or, in other communities, but in particularly in our community, therapy was not a common thing because you couldn't go and tell nobody's business. You had to be strong. You just had to deal with that. You just had to suffer through it. And that's why the millennials are saying, no, we're not going to continue that. We're not going to pass that down to our children. We're going to make it safe for where our kids can talk about whatever issues they have going on. That's why you see a lot of millennials get on social media and they speak up about abuse because they've been through it. They've been through it. Abuse is not a joke. Ain't nothing fun about being traumatized. It's nothing fun about that. You suffer. Even if you can laugh through the trauma that you've been through, you're still suffering at the same time. You're damaged. You're broken because you was not able to find that internal peace. And your peace of mind was to laugh off your situation. Your peace of mind was to be able to turn to the streets. Your peace of mind was the drugs, alcohol, partying. So for most of us, millennials growing up in a household, we was not allowed to express what we was going through. Now, the only people that might listen is those who really cared. But for the most part, you kept it to yourself. You kept it to yourself. I mean, it's so much that a lot of us had witnessed growing up as kids. We witnessed abuse. We witnessed violence. We done seen our loved ones being on drugs. We done went through the AIDS and HIV era, crack cocaine era. We done went through that. We done seen that. We done witnessed that. You know? And it became normal. Well, AIDS wasn't normal, but even with that, people used to make jokes about AIDS. People used to make jokes about AIDS. You showing your age now. You from the 80s. I was born in 89. I was born in 89. But yeah, people used to make jokes about AIDS. They used to crack jokes about it. They used to talk about that. But AIDS was something serious. It was devastating. In the 80s and 90s, AIDS was so devastating. People was dying from it left to right. Yeah, people used to be petrified, terrified, scared. Nowadays, you don't hear much about HIV, AIDS like that anymore because they got some new drug I call PrEP or whatever. But People used to be traumatized behind it. That was scary. So those time periods coming up in the 90s up to the 2000s, you was worried as a millennial because of what you saw and what you witnessed, what you had to go through, right? We was worried that shoot, we weren't gonna make it. But I'm glad that there are those of us that still made it to this day to tell our story. But the rest of them, they're no longer here. Some of them died from having HIV/AIDS. Some of them died from abuse. Some of them committed suicide. And I'm happy that I'm here to talk, to be able to have a voice. So there's pros and cons to having a social media platform because although you see a lot of shenanigans going on social media, but there's people who have a chance, an opportunity to be able to have their voices heard. I mean, like, yes. So, and it explains the behavior about Kevin Gates because he made weird comments and say weird stuff. He come off as being very hypersexual. It explains why because he was molested. So he felt like, okay, shit, by me being violated by a man, I need to have sex with as many women as much as possible so I can get that thought out of my head so that way I won't have to even think about what that guy did to me. So if I have sex with these many women, right, I will gain back my masculinity. I will feel like a man. I will feel more powerful as a man because I done had multiple sex with multiple women. And for a lot of boys growing up, they felt like that was their rite of passage. That was their rite of passage is to get as many girls, as many females as possible, right? Your rite of passage as a male is how many pussy, excuse my language, but how many pussies you can get. How many pussies can you get? That was one of these boys' rite of passage. How many ass whoopings you can take. Do you know how to bust your guns? Are you the realest nigga on the block? Are you a snitch? Like these are their rite of passage. This is the rite of passage that the boys in the hood had to go through, the boys on the block. Can't you bust your guns? Are you the realest niggas? How many niggas ass you done whooped? And how many females do you have in your circles? How many pussy can't you get? They learned this early on. They learned this shit early on, man. And so somebody like Kevin Gates, he learned that, well, I gotta take my masculinity back. I gotta fight for my manhood. Even if that means I gotta fuck as many females as much as possible, I'm gonna do that. Because he was violated by somebody. He was violated by somebody that I don't know if it's somebody that he knew or he trusted. But he was violated. And it stuck with him. It's a choice that has to be made. Yes, you have to make better choices. You have to learn from the things that happen to you. But we just got to look at the result of what happened. This is one of the reasons why people become hypersexual. This is one of the reasons why you got girls out here thinking that, okay, I got to take back my sexuality, meaning that I have to own my rights to my own body. This is where we get the so-called sexual liberation. when you're really not being liberated from, you're not being liberated because it almost look like you have lack of discipline. But for somebody that's been violated, they feel like this is my way to relieve my stress. This is the way that I have control. This is my way of showing how bold I am. What you see is what you gonna get. You know? So they feel like I have to be bold with this. This is what you see. My body, my choice. Which it is your body, your choice, but they don't realize that what some of these females don't realize is they fall into a trap. Now, once you fall into that trap, it's over with. You know what I'm saying? So it goes deep, man. This is one of the reasons why I love psychology. I love psychology and sociology because it helped me to understand more about human behavior. It's a lot that you learn when you study both of these subjects. You learn a lot about people's behavior. You get a general idea. You may not get all the answers, but you get a general idea and general understanding about yourself as a human being. You know, but I will say this, and some people may not agree, but this is science, this is biology. As human, we are part of the animal kingdom. What does that mean? We carry an animalistic behavior, okay? So we have learned how to be domesticated animals. We have learned how to be domesticated animals. And the problem is, as humans, we fight between being domesticated and being primitive. What I mean by being primitive mean that living in our raw and authentic nature. All right, it's a battle. It's a constant battle. We battle between trying to be civilized, trying to adjust into modern life, and also at the same time, we battle with our lower nature. You know what I'm saying? And then when you be exposed to certain things, you have this destructive mindset. It alters the way you think. It changes your views and your perception. It changed your views in perception, man. Like, damn. Damn, it's deep as hell. This shit is deep. So let's look at R.Kelly for example, right? Going back to him. What made R. Kelly what made R. Kelly sick in the head is the fact that he was abused as a child himself. He was abused as a child and nobody helped him. He was violated multiple times. And nobody helped him. Nobody cared enough to say, we're going to get this child some help. So he passed on that sick mentality that he has on to the next individual. And you could tell that this man was battling with himself just by listening to his music. You could tell that was a battle with this dude. This dude battled between trying to be a pimp, trying to be a player, be a thug, be a lover, being spiritual, and he out here preying on children, preying on women. That dude was sick in the head. So a part of me feel bad because as a child he experienced that, but another part of me don't feel bad because as an adult you know better and you do better, right? You try to learn how to get away from your situation. So for R. Kelly, he put himself in a situation where he got caught up and he thought he was gonna get away with that because of his fame and fortune. He thought because of his fame and fortune, he was untouchable. He was untouchable. Nobody can do anything to him. He was good to go. And that's when life showed him that no way. No way, Jose. And let me tell you another one, P. Diddy. So P. Diddy was groomed at a young age. He was groomed to be a Casanova. Okay? He was groomed to be a Casanova. So P. Diddy thought that if he used his good looks and charm, that he'll get all the women in the world. Right? Now his mama wasn't trying to make him into a Casanova type. You know, she was just trying to keep him, you know, dressed and make sure he had proper hygienes and whatnot. You know, and his father had passed away because his father was killed. And his father was out there in the streets being a hustler or whatnot. So, you know, she wanted to make sure that he had valuable things in life. And I understand that. But at a young age, he was grown to be a Casanova. He wanted to model and idolize the pimps, the drug dealers on the streets. So he grew up and became a manipulator, a womanizer. And he started abusing women. And having all these crazy orgies. Right? So he put himself out there. And he thought that was, shoot, I'm a Casanova. I got the money. I got the fame. I'm a CEO. I'm a founder of Bad Boys. Nobody can touch me. I got all this money. Mm-mm. It caught up with him. It caught up with him. You know, a lot of people think that this celebrity status shit is they get out of jail free card. Again, a lot of these celebrities think that their status is a get out of jail free card. And they could just continue to do the conniving things on a low key. And nothing's supposed to happen. And that's not how it goes. Because life is going to reveal things about you and those that you prey on. Those that you take advantage of. So I'm wishing this young lady the best. And my heart goes out to Kevin Gates. I just hope that he work on finding more peace within himself. And to the women who have children, make sure you keep a close eye on your kids. Make sure your kids are okay. Check on their mental health. Check on your mental health. To the parents in general, check on your kids. Make sure your kids is all right. Talk to your children about these things. It's not an easy conversation, but you got to. You got to talk to them about reality. You got to sit down and have a conversation with them, especially when they're teenagers, about date rape, sexual abuse, domestic violence, mental health, suicide. You got to have those conversations with your children. It's not an easy thing to do. And I wish the schools will bring back sex education. Yes, they need to bring back sex education. They need to bring these they need to bring back this subject because I mean not the subject but curriculum. They need to bring back the curriculum because it's very important for these kids to know about various type of sexual transmitted disease, and also they need to know about when somebody is trying to violate them and what to do in the situation if they feel like they're under pressure or they're being forced against their own will to do something. And how do they respond to a situation? Y'all, it's like you got to get real with your children, man. You got to talk to them about these things. You got to tell them about the world we living in. You know, you can't give them all this fantasy. It sounds good, but you got to keep it raw and unfiltered with them at times. Because that's the way they're going to prepare themselves mentally, and they're going to be like, "Damn, I did not realize this. I see what my parents are talking about. I see what the adults around me was trying to say." Because what happened is, and here's another thing. Now I'm all for kids, being prepared to leave their parents' house and be out there on their own. But what I'm not, what I don't like is the fact that parents just put their kids out in the streets and expect for them to figure life out on their own without being able to prepare them. That's what I don't like. You tell your kid that, okay, you're 17, you're 18 years old now, you graduate from high school, get out of my house. No, because they don't have a job yet. So how in the hell you expect for them to get out there and figure out life on their own? So what if they mess around and get caught up in something? Then what? I mean, we all gotta make mistakes, but you don't want to make a mistake that's going to be something permanent on your record, and that's going to put you in jeopardy. But you rather for your kids to just go out into this world unprepared. Like, okay, you graduate from high school now, you got to get out. Come on. You know, now I can see if they being disobedient, they being disrespectful, then you then you do what you gotta do on that level. But don't just kick them out and just thinking that they gonna figure it out right away. And then another thing that's heartbreaking, and I'm gonna bring this one up too, and then I'm gonna close it out. I never knew this thing was coming. There was a show that I was watching. Okay. It was about family secrets. And it was a story that I was watching by a lady. All right. At that time, she was 16 years old. She was a track star. She was running track in high school. And she ended up pregnant. Now, a black woman, came from a well prestigious household. Okay. Came from an upper middle class community. Parents was very successful. Very successful. Went to HBCU and all of that. Anyways, so she was 16 years old. She was running track, and then she found out she was pregnant. All right, she got pregnant by a guy that she was dating. So she didn't want to terminate her pregnancy. So what her parents did, they sent her to a home, a shelter for pregnant girls who pretty much were abandoned or sent away by their parents to have the baby. And the reason why they did that to her, because they didn't want that to bring shame to the household. They didn't want to look bad because they had a teenage daughter that was getting ready to have a child. So they sent her to a home far away from where she lived to have a baby. Now imagine your parents just doing that. Oh, you pregnant? Well, we gonna send you to a home over here. We gonna send you away because you can't be a part of this family carrying a baby. That's putting shame to us. That's bringing shame that makes us look bad. And I didn't think that was so common. I didn't think that was so common that parents would do shit like that because they don't want to ruin their reputation as being somebody that's in a higher position, right? Whether it be at an institution, whether it be at a church or something, they don't want to ruin their position. They don't want to ruin that image because they have a child that had sex out of wedlock and got pregnant. Like, to me, it's weird. It's strange. Or I'll do you another one. Some parents will force their children, their daughters, to abort the baby just so, as a cover up, as a way of saying, hey, you're not gonna make us look bad. Like, and that's fucked up too. You send your child away to go to a clinic to get rid of the child, to get rid of the baby, just so you can cover it up, the fact that she done got pregnant, as if she's not gonna go back out there and get pregnant again. Like, it's just really messed up to me. To me, it's a psychological damage either way. It shows where you failed as a parent. It shows where you failed. Bruh, I mean, anyways, I said enough tonight. But oh yeah, getting back to that story about the lady. So eventually, years later, she was able to reconnect with her daughter after she gave birth to her daughter. She ended up had to give the daughter up for adoption. Yeah, she had to give her up for adoption. Then she was able to come back home to stay with her parents afterward. Yeah. And then the boy, who was her boyfriend at the time, he was her boyfriend. He couldn't come around her. Check this out. The dad didn't even want her having anything to do with him. He did not want that boy around. And he told him that if you come around, that I would have you locked up. What? 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 Wait a minute, what? Imagine that. The father threatened a young man if he comes around because this dude got his daughter pregnant. They was in a relationship. And he wants to be a father to his kid. But the dad said, no, you don't have any rights. And this girl is forced to give the baby up for that. She forced to live in a home with other teenage girls that's pregnant and forced to give the baby up for adoption and never get a chance to see that child again until years later, until that child is about what, in her 20s. Man, listen. Listen, man. Man, listen. Man, listen. 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 If that ain't wild, I don't know what the hell that is. That is some wild shit. When I saw that story, I said, this is the most bizarre story I ever heard. I mean, but I understand that that was her parents and she had love for her parents. She understood their position. But me, I would come from a different approach. If my parents was to ever do some shit like that, I would never want to have anything to do with them. Ever. Once you put me out your house and send me away, you ain't got to worry about me coming back around. You ain't got to worry about me coming back around. No, it's a done deal. Cause you basically abandoned me. You disowned me. You might as well have disowned me. You know what I'm saying? You might as well have. So yeah, so the girl was adopted and she was able to reconnect with her mom and go from there. So they didn't say much about the father, but yeah, they ain't say much about the father though. But yeah, and then the woman, I think she's a psychologist or something like that. She has a PhD in something, and she's currently married. She got other kids or whatnot. But the fact that she was not able to be a parent to her first child, it really did a lot of damage to her. It really hurt her, and her parents caused her to suffer. It was like they way of punishing her for having a baby. Like, man, listen, man, listen, man, listen, listen, listen. Mm-mm. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Damn. Mm. Let me block this person here. No, I'm gonna put this person on timeout. Yeah. Okay. It says, I always tell my kids that if you have unprotected sex, the best scenario is you getting a baby because there's a lot of other things you can get from unprotected sex that you can't find a babysitter. Yeah, it's a lot of things you can. That's why you have to be careful. You have to be careful who you engage with. You have to be careful with the things that you do. You have to be careful. You know what I'm saying? You have to get tested. Go to the doctor. Make your doctor's appointment every 6 months if you can, every year. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, Somebody put, my daughter was in college and dropped out because she's now pregnant, wasting my money. Hey, children are going to make choices, and I understand. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but it's never too late for her to go back to school, because eventually she's going to go back and get her education, you know. Or, some people can continue their education while while they're pregnant or whatnot. But I know how you feel. I get it. That's her choice. That's something she has to go through. You know, I understand. I understand that you are very disappointed, Mr. Noah. I understand. Mm. But I cover up so many topics at once. From child abuse, sexual abuse to teen pregnancies, sexual transmitted disease, all these different things. I have covered up so many topics all at once. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, watching. I really do. And if you guys get a chance to, please check out the interview with the victim of R.Kelly. Okay, check out her interview. Her name is Reshona. Yeah, Reshona. I forgot her last name, just like that. But check out and just look up Sparkle's niece, R. Kelly victim, Jane Doe. Just look up the interview and you can check it out. All right. And also check out the Kevin Gates interview with Shay Shay, aka Shannon, not Shannon Brown. What's that nigga's name? Shannon Sharp. Yeah, check out Shannon Sharp interview with Kevin Gates. It's a very interesting interview. I'll tell you that. It's really, really interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. But check out the interview. If you get a chance, check out both interviews. And then, just have an open mind. But thank you all for your time. I'm going to go ahead and log off of here. So may peace and power elevation be to all of you. Happy Black History Month. Enjoy yourself. And I will talk to you all later. All right. Until next time, peace. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm out.